Hiya, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. I think I talked about it briefly in a previous video, how hard I find it to find a good metallic ink. And when I saw that scrapbook.com had released a couple of metallic inks, they have the metallic gold, which is this colour, and they also have one called, I think it's called Frost, which they describe as a soft silver colour. Now, I only purchased one because I want to try something. I feel like I have purchased so many metallic ink pads and kind of been disappointed. So I felt like I was in for the same experience here. So I just purchased one. And they also have re-inkers for both of them as well. I didn't purchase those either until I knew whether I liked or did not like the ink. So today I was having a real play with it and thought I would test it out. Now, this set of embossing folders comes in a pack of 2, and I really like both patterns, which is a rarity for me when something comes in a pack of 2, but I'm going with the floral kind of design today. And I have some plain white, this is 80-pound Nina Solar white cardstock, and I'm going to take the gold ink and I'm going to pop it down on my embossing folder. Now, this is the side of the embossing folder that has the kind of recessed images rather than like raised images. So these ones kind of dip down, and I'm trying to get it on all of the flat surfaces. Now, I am trying not to press too hard because I don't want to get it in those little recessed parts of the folder. So then I will carefully put my card down, and once I place it, I don't want to shift it. I close my embossing folder and then I pop it through my die cutting machine just like I would any other embossing folder. And now this is what I get. So you can see the gorgeous metallic shine. Now bear in mind that this is one way to use the ink. Obviously you could do some ink blending or you would stamp with it as well. There are so many different techniques. So I'm just trying out one technique today using the gold ink. And then to get rid of the ink off here, I just use a little baby wipe and it is all gone. So I was really pleasantly surprised with the results of putting this ink through. I did try doing a little bit of stamping and things with it, which I was impressed with the results, and I will have some upcoming videos that show my experience with this ink a little bit more, but you can see that gorgeous shine that I was really impressed with. So this kind of inspired me to do a bit of a gold on gold card because I really like the results and I really like that I could definitely see the gold shine. So what I did was I ran through some vellum through the exact same embossing folder, but just to catch one flower. I made sure to use my anti-static powder bag thoroughly and give it lots of powder. Then use some VersaMark sticky embossing ink just very lightly so that it would catch the raised portions of my embossed vellum, and then I'm going to pop over some gold embossing powder. This one happens to be from Ranger, but any gold embossing powder will work fine. And then because it's vellum, you just want to make sure you keep your heat tool moving really fast because obviously this will warp if you're not careful. But you can see the beautiful embossed results there, and don't worry about all the outside piece because I won't be needing that. Then I'm going to cut an even smaller piece and do the same flower again and run it through just the exact same process that I did with that first piece of vellum. I add the anti-static powder bag and really generously, then a little bit of the VersaMark sticky embossing ink, just so gently swiping it over the top, and then the same gold powder. Now I'm going to end up with a layered flower on the front of my card today, and so it doesn't matter, I'm going to cut these out, and you can kind of see, although the flower image isn't all perfectly connecting, I can definitely see like an outline that I'm able to cut around. So again, if you have an image that you're able to cut around, it doesn't have to be the same one from the same embossing folder. You could do a totally different embossing folder and just take an image from it and pop it on your background. I just really was inspired by how much you could see that metallic shine to the gold ink, and so I wanted to go with that theme for my whole card today. So it's really easy because I know where the embossing folder ends right down that side, and then I'm just using my fussy cutting scissors to cut around the larger part of the flower, and then this one is going to be layered up one more time, so I'm cutting around the slightly inner part of the flower just to create a little bit of dimension on my card and not have it quite so flat. but I can see where I'm kind of naturally following where to go. It does get a little bit confusing, but there's no right or wrong because this is our own card. So I've got my little vellum flower all sorted. Now here I was not quite thinking, I will explain my mistake in a little bit, but I have showed you this stamp set a few times. This is going to be coming up in a lot of videos because this is a really versatile stamp set. It is the Flower Picking Friends from Simon Hurley, and I'm just taking sentiments from it today. I won't be using any of the images. And it says, I changed my mind there, it says, "Just for you, my friend." I have a really lovely lady in the US who this card is going to. You can see I'm kind of fiddling around because I wasn't sure where I wanted this to go on the vellum. I knew that it would be a strip to go across the middle of my card, but I just wasn't quite sure how I was connecting everything, and being a little bit careful when I'm working with vellum to make sure that no adhesive would be showing anywhere. So again, make sure to use my anti-static powder bag and then the same VersaMark ink, and I will stamp it down. And because I want everything to be really nice and kind of cohesive and continuous, I'm going to use the same gold embossing powder. And if it's a really nice fine embossing powder, you should be able to emboss sentiments perfectly. And it says, "Just for you, my friend." And again, it's all of that gorgeous shine on this card. So now I'm coming back to my card panel and kind of thinking about how I'm going to put everything together. I do love a nice little border around my card fronts, so I ended up cutting off about 1/4 of an inch down each way. So this card front now measures 4 by 5 1/4, and I keep catching that shine because, as I said, I was pretty impressed and I probably wasn't expecting much from the ink, so it was a really nice surprise. Now the card base is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, but when I put it on that white background, I felt like it just didn't stand out quite enough. So I am going to take an embossing pen. Again, I'm going to use the anti-static powder bag. It's really important. Now I have these distress ones, but there are so many different types out there, so just whatever you have on hand. These ones come in a 2-pack, and they come with a bullet nib and a brush tip, which is pretty handy. But you could also just use your embossing pad, and if you wanted kind of a more of a rustic look or not quite as straight edge, that would work just as well. But I am taking the pen and going all around the outside. I was being a little bit cautious. I do want this outside line to be really fine because I don't want the card to kind of be overwhelmingly gold, if that makes sense. I don't want it to kind of feel like it's right in your face. So I did want this to be a really fine, delicate line that went around the outside. Failing this, you could also just use some strips of gold cardstock to glue around the outside, or even do a matting layer of gold. However, I was keen to have all of my gold matching, because often I find when I use different products, especially from different companies, that the golds are different shades and things, so I like it all to be matching, hence why I did the embossing instead of adding a matting layer. But again, just use what you have. You could also die cut out a sentiment out of some gold cardstock and then use the same gold cardstock to create a matting layer. That would be a really nice way to do it. There are definitely lots of good options. So once I have all 4 sides melted and I put this back onto my card base, I feel much happier that it's created that border. I definitely like this look a whole lot more. So now it comes to putting the whole card together. I'm going to use some Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish. That's what's inside these glue bottles, and it is my go-to because it is so nice and strong, and it really does dry nice and clear with no shine, which is super important to me as a card maker. So I've got my panel down there on the front, and then it's just a matter of making everything go together. Now I'm going to take advantage of that nice big solid center of the flower, and that is where I'm going to end up hiding some foam tape. But because I am adding 2 layers of vellum, I don't have to be quite so careful with the bottom bit of foam tape. So that you can see that these flowers will line up together, and I'm just cutting them so that they are flush with the right hand side of my already gold embossed border. As I said, I can add a little bit bigger piece of foam tape on the back of my main layer and then stick that down. I'm sticking it down directly on top of the flower that was already embossed in my original card front. So it's exactly where the other one is. And then I can add a little bit of foam tape behind that solid center, and that one will go on top. Again, just making the flower a little bit dimensional. So I really like that it's sitting in the same place as the original one. And then when it comes to the sentiment, here's my mistake. Now, if I had been thinking, then I would have curved the edges around the back of my card front panel before I adhered all of that down. So I should have done it first, but I wasn't thinking and I wasn't sure what I was doing at that time. So that was my mistake, and you'll be able to fix it if you are doing something similar. But I did think I need to make the best of this situation, and I really liked how everything looked, so I didn't want to change anything. So my trick here is just when you are adhering vellum, you have to be a little bit careful of adhesive because everything shows through. Adhesive shows through the back of vellum. So I'm cutting it down to the size that I think I need for the front of my card, and then I am going to coat the whole back of this in adhesive. So for me, this will fit nicely in between each of those gold borders. I don't want it covering up any of that little gold border that we embossed. But I will use some double-sided adhesive. This one happens to be from scrapbook.com because it is a nice thick double-sided adhesive and very nice and strong. So if I cover the whole front of the adhesive, make sure you kind of push down on all of it so it's all nice and even. Cut off any of the excess from around the outside, and then when you put the whole piece of vellum down, you won't be able to see any adhesive because it covers the whole thing. I am going to nestle it down in behind that flower so it looks like it is part of the entire card, and then pop it down, and that is my card finished. This is probably one of my favorite cards that I have created in a little while. So I love this card, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed watching the process creating it as well. Thank you so much. I will leave links to everything down in the description box below. But other than that, I will see you in the next video. Thanks, bye!